everything is subjective. So I've titled this lesson as Everything is Subjective because I want to clarify a very important misconception regarding some quote-unquote facts of life. The idea of everyone is you pushed out challenges a very fundamental understanding of life itself. We are used to looking at people as entities outside of ourselves that we interact, who would continue to exist if we weren't there. And this is all an illusion. This idea that we are limited only by the way they present themselves and all the constraints of life. This is all just an illusion, just a consequence of us forgetting who we fundamentally are. That is, I am, or God. This limited form or human form views the world through lenses called belief. Now, this belief system or belief structure, whatever you want to call it, is what gives us this limited experience. Now, you mustn't confuse this lens as something that is wrong or detrimental. You see, God became man, so God gave himself limitations to experience and savor his own creation. So the connotations of limitations must not be taken too negatively. Even though our goal is to ultimately transcend it, you mustn't think that I should just live life without ever experiencing, without ever having any human experiences, right? So as I was saying, you look at life using lenses of belief. So you are never looking at things in its truest or purest form. You are always interpreting it. Now, this lens is what's creating a subjective experience. So since this lens or our beliefs are morphable, you can change it based on and reprogram them using different practices, affirmations, visualizations, essays. You can alter all of these experiences. A very common question people have when I talk about lenses or everything is subjective, not majority of things are subjective, but everything, right? I want you to really focus on that word. When we say that people behave in accordance to our beliefs, we often tend to underestimate the implications of that. We think that there are these subtle changes in behavior, that if I behave properly with someone, they are bound to behave appropriately. Whereas if I were to be rude with someone, they would automatically reflect that. You see, everyone is you pushed out goes way beyond that. I think it's difficult for our logical minds to grasp this idea, how subjective people really are. And the changes can actually shock you. Sometimes it manifests as exceptions to natural laws, natural 3D laws of our human existence. But let's say you take a very ordinary object you have very little emotional attachment to, and let's understand how even that is subjective and how we are constantly viewing it using our own limited lenses. So let's ask ourselves, what is it that makes us think that certain objects or certain facts about life are objective? Well, it's verification. In simple words, if there's people around you and you ask a lot of them whether something exists or whether something is true or false, and they agree with this idea that this thing exists, then you accept it as true. Whereas if people disagree with its existence, then you think that it's just an illusion of your mind. We call it schizophrenia or just delusion, things of that nature. So this idea of validation or majority vote is what drives us. So we treat validation or a majority vote as something that's objective. But if you take into consideration everyone is you pushed out, it means that you're manifesting those people and also their opinions as a direct consequence. So the version of people being manifested in your reality and their opinions are secretly your own opinion that you aren't consciously aware of. It's a hidden part of your subconscious mind that's telling you about those beliefs through those people. Let's take a very silly example, a very ordinary one. Let's say you have a green bottle on a table near you, and you have family members who are drinking from it, and you ask them whether that bottle's green or not, and they all shake their heads in agreement. So you know that the bottle's green. You assume that the greenness of the bottle is objective. But then you're perceiving their opinion, them agreeing to the greenness of the bottle also through your lenses, your subjective lenses with which you are viewing the bottle itself. So it's not like you are looking at the bottle subjectively and perceiving their opinions objectively. Both of these are subjective. And so even the color of the bottle or even its existence, things we take for granted, are also subjective. So reality is a very persistent and logically sound hallucination, but not just one object which you can cherry pick. You aren't hallucinating one idea. You aren't hallucinating just one idea and experiencing the reality of the rest. It's not like only one of your experiences are fake or subjective and the rest are objective. No, the entire thing is subjective. So you see, every single event or your memories, every little detail, including the people you're interacting with, is a logically sound and persistent hallucination. So it makes sense to you. It uses old data, old memories to extend this hallucination. Like a dream, which is very lucid and very loosely structured. This 3D reality is a lot more solid. So if reality is a hallucination and your imagination is also hallucination, there's hardly any difference between the two. So your reality is global hallucination, whereas your imagination is local hallucination. It's just that we take this global hallucination as a fact. So let's say you're trying to manifest $1 million when you have, say, $10,000 in your bank account. So let's take these two events. Event A, you have $10,000, which is the fact. And event B, $1 million in your bank account, which you want to manifest, right? So the strategy would naturally follow is imagine and persist in the event B and assume it as real. So you imagine $1 million in your bank account, and you think that this imagination, this idea of $1 million is fake, whereas this act of you having $10,000 is fact. And the difference between these two is when you show others your bank account, they all can see $10,000 in it, and you think, okay, that is real, that is a fact of life. But it's just that your $1 million hasn't really been accepted by the subconscious mind. You are still in the process of imagination. So if your subconscious finally accepts it, and we don't know how that works, how exactly that works, even though we tell people to repeat certain things, that 21-day principle, you can't really gauge this gradual process of your subconscious mind accepting a new idea. However, once it has fully accepted, you will notice that it has manifested into your reality. Interestingly enough, Neville talks about this idea of people accepting your reality as an objective fact, and the fact that we rely on people's acceptance, this idea of validation, is also something that is taken into consideration when Neville explains the idea of manifestation to the death of Moses. So in the lecture The Art of Dying, which I discussed a paragraph from it in one of my previous videos, he briefly mentions Gilead, which means hills of witnesses, and he doesn't really delve too deep into this idea, but this hill of witnesses is people in your reality agreeing, and they are objectively experiencing your subjectively appropriated belief manifested as a fact. So Gilead comes after everything, after this entire process of being born first, then prophesying, then contemplating, then being satisfied. And after the satisfaction of your end desire in your imagination, then comes Gilead, which is after the wish has been fulfilled in your imagination and you have accepted it as a fact. Then this entire thing expands into the outer world. So it's not that something is happening on the outside. You can think of your imagination being local to the premises of your brain first when you're imagining. And then when it finally gets accepted, you can imagine this radius of light inside your head expanding out in the entire world. And people who are within the realms of that light become a part of that same thing. So this is a little visualization trick you can use to conceptually understand the process of imaginations refracting into the outer world. And this visualization helps you understand it not as something mechanical. So it's not like you are imagining and then God's saying, okay, he has imagined successfully and let's deliver this manifestation into his real life. Rather, it is you who are doing it to yourself. You are expanding the belief into the outer world. I mentioned a lot of concepts in this video. I'm not sure how to title this appropriately, but But I hope that this lesson finds you in the right time. I hope you learned something from this video. Share your thoughts in the comment section below, and see you soon in the next video.